All right, hey, Merry Christmas. Well, I guess I should say that at the end of the broadcast because it's not Christmas yet, and so I gotta make it to the end of the broadcast before I wish you Merry Christmas. But I hope things are going well for you this Christmas Eve. It is so East Coast. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, New York City, and I hope everybody is going well today. No, I can hear myself, and it's like I am once again. I can hear myself. Tech issues, always tech issues. I am flabbergasted why I am having issues again and again. Okay, how do I do that? How do I do that? How do I do that? Oh, there it is. Beautiful. I fixed it. I am so proud. Melanie, don't die while driving. It looks like we've got Stacy and Melanie hanging out with us. Two of our leaders with the Church Digital. Excited that they're on. Melanie says that she is driving but listening in. I hope I'm worthy of that. I don't know that the show's going to be worthy of a listen while driving. So I woke up this morning and I was like, hey, maybe we'll talk Christmas movies. Excited, I love Christmas movies, and I've been watching a lot on repeat already this season. But I woke up this morning and I saw a movie. Literally went to the theater at 9:45 a.m. showing. I took my son to go see Sonic 3, and he is a Sonic fan. I am not. I know Nintendo bought Sega, but I was never a Sega fan. Like, I think I had the 16-bit Sega once, and only had like two or three games. Never actually owned a Sonic game until the boy comes around and he's got a bunch of that stuff that I didn't have. And so, but it was cute. I honestly I saw Sonic 1 in the theater, and I fell asleep in the movie. It doesn't happen often, but it did in that one. Don't tell my son. I saw Sonic 2 in the theater, allegedly. He says I saw it. I don't remember anything from that movie. Like, I know the characters, just pop culture wise. I know what's going on. But like, I don't remember actually seeing Knuckles and whatever the fox's name is in the movie. I don't ever remember seeing that movie. He's like, oh my gosh, Dad, you saw that like two or three times. Okay. I do a great job of falling asleep in movies when we watch them at home because the couch is really comfortable. And so but he wanted to see it in the Dolby Digital, in the nice theater, the loud theater with the big screen. And so it's like, okay, we gotta watch it this week before it gets trumped Christmas Day by something. And so we went Oh Dark 30. It's kind of weird drinking a slushy and an icy and popcorn at 9:45 in the morning. Like, that's not the usual time for that. Yes, I had some sort of a healthy breakfast. Before that, I actually ate a Jamaican patty. Yes, Jamaican patty. If you've never had a Jamaican meat patty, Jamaican me crazy, and you should probably experience one in your lifetime. We did not have a spicy one. I wish it was spicy. I tend to enjoy the spicy Jamaican patties very much. My family does not. Much in the way that my son enjoys Sonic movies and the rest of the family does not. And so it was an interesting day. And surely, Jeff, you're going to talk about something more beneficial than Sonic 3 in today's broadcast. I don't know that that's true. It's interesting. Like, okay, it's Christmas. Everybody is neck deep in Christmas services or neck deep in family and holiday and those sorts of things. And so, like, I totally recognize the fact that this is a chill day. And I was debating, well, should I just cancel outright? It's like, no, you know what? I'll just sit in front of a microphone and talk for an hour or so. And just like, if anybody has anything they want to contribute to this conversation, they can contribute. If anybody wants to just sit there and drive while I talk, dude, I have played the radio DJ many times in my life, and I am comfortable doing an hour-long monologue. I wish I had a bottle of water right here in front of me or a cup of coffee. That is a miss on my part. But aside from that, I am happy to monologue all day long. And somebody will watch this on demand on the flip side. Somebody will put me on as they're going to bed, which is a little weird. Actually, I just got a text. Um, so many of you know my I started to say love-hate relationship with Xfinity. Actually, I don't know if there's any love in the relationship at all. It's a hate, 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 hate. Okay, it's a Christian. We shouldn't use the word hate. Um, Despise. Strong dislike is too weak of a term. There's got to be something above um, strong dislike that's not at the hate level. Can I say despise? Can I say despise with the intensity of 1,000 suns? Something like that. So like the internet, I literally have two internet service providers coming into the house because my main one, Xfinity, is so bad. And so today, Christmas Eve, I get a text. I get a text from Xfinity. No, you can't read it. That would be nice if you could, but lenses don't work that way. At least cheap lenses don't work that way. And so I'm going to read to you the text message I received 12:42, 18 minutes before this stream was starting. This is what I deal with. 12:42, 18 minutes before I start streaming. Hi, it's Xfinity Assistant. We've identified a network performance, once again, issue that might be affecting your Xfinity service and needs to be repaired right away. We're actively working to fix it by 12:42, 2:40 p.m., an hour and a half from now. We'll do our best to minimize disruption in your area. During this time, you will experience a service interruption at, and it inserts my address here. We apologize for the inconvenience and will text you when the issue is resolved. Well, it's nice of them to let me know that the issue has resolved. By the way, I still have internet, even though the text message says that I will not have internet. So I'm like, at any given time, the internet's going to bomb out here on this stream, and y'all go bye-bye. Bye-bye. But I'll enjoy it for every second I can. I may switch over to the other network. You know what? I probably should have did that in anticipation. That's actually on me because I could have flipped a switch, but I didn't. I just the intensity of the despise of Xfinity is high level, but it's better. It's better than it was. We solved some of the network issues that I had. That's a conversation for a different day. So yeah, enjoying a holiday season. We had a church service yesterday. The church plant that I'm at, Reality Church in Miami. I am a regular attender, volunteer. I serve in the production department. There have been seasons where I was more involved organizationally with the church, and I've worked with other churches in the Miami area, but as the Church.digital gets more and more complex and more energy and more travel, kind of taking a season out of direct leadership, but just, hey y'all, where do you need help? Let me help the plant go, and so we've been serving in production. Oh my gosh, let me tell you the story. So my son played bass at church on Sunday, whatever the Sunday was, a couple days ago. Not the Christmas Eve service necessarily, but the typical Sunday church service. And so he went up there for 3 or 4 songs, 2 services. First time he had played bass. First time he played bass in the church. He's played in a chapel band for like with middle schoolers and high schoolers, but these were like adults, and these are like professional quality musicians. Like for a church plant, we get a high caliber of musician. It's really fascinating to see who's coming in, and he held his own. Like the worship leader after this in the sermon of the second service said, "Okay, we're going to change songs for the post sermon song. We're going to do this song." And I was actually running the video switcher, so I wasn't in the green room with the band. And CJ's like, "What song?" And the worship leader told him, and the worship pastor told him, and CJ's like, "I don't know that song." And so they posted the chord sheets in PCO, and first time CJ played the song on his bass was in front of crowded room, and he nailed it. He did a good job. Really, it was really surprising. Really, I say surprising. That makes it sound like, why was it surprising? You should expect that. I don't know. It was really cool. I'll say it that way. It was really cool to see him in that light. He is he's really developing musicianship through this, which was a surprise. I don't know. Like, I just was not anticipating him to be the musician. Caitlin's my daughter, 16. She's brains and she's also art. She's engineering and she's got an eye for design and art, and she's actually a talented painter. My son, I was expecting him to be the production kid, and he's good at production, but he's also in tangent with the production is developing musicianship, and so that's actually really cool to see the musicianship and production, because usually it's one side or the other, but somebody that really understands both sides of the equation, that's really cool. And so last night was our Christmas Eve service at Reality Church, and so we went over there. Um, I was actually not supposed to be on, and I he was funny. He said something, maybe it was a text or something that I saw. I know. I was texting him about stuff come up for the Sunday service. This is like on Wednesday or Thursday, and I was like, hey, you don't have me scheduled for the Monday night service, which I'm fine if you don't need me, but I think you kind of need me. Like, what's the plan? And he's like, oh my gosh, we're so far. I forget what he had said, but he's like, yeah, the service is getting more and more complex. Why don't you plan on coming in? And I was like, okay, CJ, we're gonna go, produce the Monday service too. And sure enough, that service just got more and more and more complex, which was a lot of fun. Actually, I hadn't been in producer mode in years, like I was last night. Last night it was I wasn't. I'm behind the camera, I'm behind the video switcher, or I'm telling my kids what to do, and then I'm sitting down in the seat and letting my kids run the gear. It's been a minute since I was like producing the event, hovering in the background while everybody else was like doing their position. And last night was the first time. It was funny. There was usually when you're a producer, you want to encourage, and but if you've ever done this, I would strongly advise you produce through relationships, because sometimes when you give feedback, or you're very abrupt or sharp, or criticism on something, or you ask for something to be changed, it can be interpreted very harshly, especially if you don't have a relationship, because you're trying to do it quietly, you're trying to do it in the moment. And if you don't have a relationship with the people, then they're going to assume the worst. But if you have a relationship, they'll show grace and you can work through it. Well, the sound guy had a relationship with the video director and the video camera operator. Well, they were like related to me. It was CJ and Caitlin. The pro presenter operator, I really didn't know that well. And so it was funny. I was working, prepping for the show, because they hadn't done any prep. The service was supposed to start at I think 7, and we actually went in at like 3 o'clock to program light cues and white balance the cameras for candlelight and design basically everything. Well, pro presenter for the most part was in, but design the rest of it. And we got there like 3:30 for a 7 o'clock service, just getting started coding stuff. My son programmed the lights, and I kind of coached them through some stuff and tried to figure out how to make some adjustments on the cameras. We added a new camera in, prosumer level camcorder that doesn't have a lot of settings, not like a professional does. And so it was kind of awkward to get it to match. But you startup, you do what you can. Use the resources you got, right? And but I was actually sitting at the ProPresenter computer, making adjustments to it literally a song they wrote, and they were singing for the first time last night. When the ProPresenter operator walks in, and he was kind of like taken aback when he saw me sitting there. He's like, "Am I on?" And I was like, "Oh, no, you are certainly on. I tell you what, can I have 2 minutes to finish what I'm working on here?" I just happened to sit through a walkthrough at 3 o'clock before anybody else got here with production for some reason, and so I've got the information in my head. I will gladly debrief with you, but can I have 2 minutes to finish what I'm doing? And he said sure, and so I finished it up, called him over, and I was like, hey, I said, you need to know, like, my role tonight is kind of just to be a producer, hovering around to handle any of the details. It's a completely different service flow than what we're used to, and there's a lot more technical aspects. And so I'm going to be 2 steps ahead of everybody, kind of warning, reminding, showing, keeping everybody on tap to make sure that we don't miss anything. And I was like, this is not out of disrespect for you. I'm sure this service is going to go great. I just want to be the buffer to make sure that everything goes well. And I said, so, I don't really know this guy other than maybe once or twice. And I was like, well, if I say anything to offend you tonight, I apologize in advance. That's not my intent. And he's like, as long as you can help keep me ahead of the curve, I love that. Awesome, man. And we had a blast. It was so funny. There was one song that had this little trick to it, and they told me at 3 o'clock what the trick was, and so I just had it in my head. And the first thing I did when that guy came up to me and I walked him through on ProPresenter, I walked him through the trick. 3 different people came up to him over the course of the next 30 minutes he was there. And tried to explain to him the trick. And every time I was like, I got it covered, guys. Don't worry about it. I got it covered. It was funny. One person came up and tried to do it, and she actually got offended that I didn't, give her the time to speak into it. And literally I was like, the service is starting in 60 seconds. Go on stage, get ready to go. You've got other things to worry about than what's happening in this booth. I got you covered. Trust me. And it was all good. It is so important. I did not realize this. This was so funny. I'll tell the story. It is so important to deal with relationships, to lead with relationships. I didn't understand that in my 20s. I didn't understand that in my 30s. It was in my 40s when it kicked in. I was actually I got reached out. I used to be a communications director. Arguably a communications pastor, but they wouldn't, it was a high-level leader position at a church in Austin. And this was before they had I basically built the department. It was a single church and one campus. And when I was there, we built out the production department. I built out the communications, the creative department, web. Like, I ended up having like 5 or 6 departments underneath me. And it's funny, at one point they wanted me to oversee worship, and I was like, I can't. There's no way. I cannot oversee that too. But coming out of that was, I started the job in my 30s, 2011. 34, 35. And I was very harsh. I was very abrupt. I was very my way or the highway. Very type A. Maybe I'm that way now. I don't know. Some people are still kind of read me as that way. It's interesting. Digitally, I don't think I come across nearly as harsh as I do physically. But I've been told, like, digitally you're very calm. Little tip secret here: the camera's up a little higher off at the horizontal axis, and it's tilted down, which makes me look smaller than I actually am. I'm really a big guy, and the camera has a little less red when I color balanced it to make me a little lighter, so you can't like see the red tones that are typically in my skin. Because typically people are like, "Oh my gosh, Jeff, why are you mad? Why are you?" I cannot wear a red shirt because people are like, "Why are you mad?" And I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm fine. But I really just have that illusion that I'm always mad. And so, like, I've done things digitally to make myself be less intimidating. But so I left that job in 20. Yeah, bye, Melanie. I left that job in 20. I can't think. 2015. And but the girl that was on my team, she was a graphic artist at that church, and there actually just became the communications director, and so she's overseeing communications now. It's a decade later for their 5 campuses. Like, they've grown to, I think, 4 campuses now, and the 5th campus launches next year. And so they're ramping up. It's awesome. I'm really excited. And she's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And so we ended up catching up and trading stories and about how things are going. And I'm so proud of her. And she left the church, like, she left working at the church when I was there before 2015. She started her own ad agency, marketing agency, and did a phenomenal job with it. And got to the place where she wanted, another challenge, and so she's going back to the church to do the position for communications, and it's funny, the church has changed so much. When I was working there, this is a true story. The executive pastor came in. This is honest to God true story. The executive pastor called me into his office. And he says to me, "Jeff, you are doing a phenomenal job." "Hey, thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that." No, Jeff, seriously. You are adapting very well here. You're pushing for a new standard, and you are getting us there, this church there, in a record time. And that just requires respect. And so up front, I want to say that I respect you for the work that you're doing. "Oh, Pastor, man, it's been hard, but I really appreciate you, noticing." And then he's like, "Okay, great. Jeff, if one more woman walks into my office saying that you made her cry, you're fired." What? Evidently, I was a bull in the china shop. That's right. Relationships is so important. Um, it was so funny. Like, when I worked there was a lot of the culture. They had never had they had not had a Type A person working at that church before, and so somebody coming in my way or the highway to bring that culture. A lot of the team wasn't ready for it. A lot of the team loved it. Like, the girl actually I was speaking with, she's like, "Jeff, you didn't waste time." She said, I never had a problem with you, like, tell me the way that it was. If anything, I got to see the big picture of how the organization worked. It helped me mature me to where I am now, where I can come into a leadership position because I understand the back operations much better because you walked me through that. And so I get it. It's not for everybody, but it's a lot of fun now when you have relationships and you're building out of relationship. It's the people, process, product. Why am I talking about this on Christmas Eve? I don't know. It's the people, process, product. You've got you have to value all 3, or what do you value most, which is the flip side. If you look at, what do you value most? Do you value the people, the relationships? Do you value the product, the end game, or do you value the process of how you get there? Or do you value 2? And if you value 2, what do you disvalue? What are you unvaluing? What are you devaluing? Devaluing is a better word. Leading in 25 is hard. We're not even in 25. Leading in 24 is hard. Who's making the decision? I mean, a lot of times that people process product, that I've worked jobs where that wasn't valued by me, that was valued upstream. Actually, within the church digital, that's interesting. I don't think I value product over people or process. I don't think I value process because I'm constantly I'm constantly growing, constantly changing, constantly evolving. Processes don't stick around long enough for me to like be stuck and limited to a process. I could be told I don't value people because of the constant changing and the constant turnover is not the right word, but the constant evolution idea as well. Maybe somebody could say that I value product because I'm very change oriented, which is, I guess, part of product. It's hard though, especially when it's a ministry area or something that you're passionate about, because you want to see it succeed. And it's interesting, the leadership teams that you have, the people that I've worked in the past with, for the most part, they took me as far as they could go. I mean, it's funny, she's actually in town. Deanna Spallone used to be, oh my gosh, I mean, I would not call her an assistant, a comms director, right hand. She was a professional in marketing. She was a senior level with an agency, and she, as a side hustle, was working for me. Like, she took the church digital as far as she could. And it got to the place where, I was literally having conversations about, hey, Deanna, what would it look like if you worked for me full time? And she's like, Jeff, you don't have enough money. I didn't have enough money. And so we had to pivot to, all right, Deanna's out because I need more and I can't afford her. So where am I going next? And that was the beauty of the situation. Was, all right, who's next? And we floundered for, 6 months or so trying to figure out who's next and what's next. But along comes Barbara Cornero. A lot more capacity, a lot more experience. Sorry, Deanna, for saying this if you're watching this, but better aligned to the vision. And, had the team already built instead of us having to manage the team. Like, it was incredible. But Barbara was the right person at the right time. In the startup days, I don't know that Barbara, I'm trying to figure out I don't think that Barbara was the right fit for us day one. Deanna, because I had a relationship, she was plugging in day one. And so it's like the relationships that I had with Deanna and some of the team back then, really helped carry us for a season. And then we grew to the point where it's like, all right, what are other options? What are other things? What are other opportunities? Who else can we come on? It's interesting. I was talking with somebody that we're talking through about coming on board, and with the church digital coming on leadership, and she used the language. I think it was something to the sense of, Jeff, what I like about you is you know how to stay in your lane. And it's like, yeah, I know I'm an A type A guy. In APEST, I'm an apostolic. If this is interesting, we're leaning into a new assessment we're going to be introducing at the Church Digital through EDM. It's called True Center, and it's a fascinating assessment. It's It's the easiest assessment I've taken with one of the most richest profiles that to this day I'm still not sure how they got all the information they needed out of it. But at the end of it, the guy who's connected me with the assessment, the guy who's been doing hundreds of these assessments, says, "Oh, by the way, Jeff, you're the first explorer I've ever met." Yeah, like I literally showed up as this thing, as an explorer, and a driver, and he's like, "Yeah, those two, that you're like the extreme kind of type A guy," which if you know me, you know that's true. But I've recognized that. I was actually joking. It was like yesterday we had a really big meeting, and somewhere along the way I should have been like, "Hey, can somebody open us up in prayer?" Or, "Hey, like let's spend 5 minutes here at the end of this thing, 10 minutes, and just pray that God guides the church digital." As a leader, I should have really did that. I should have. What I know of myself at this point, I'm 40 something. And when I started that meeting, I realized, okay, I've got 47 minutes before so and so has to leave, and I've got an hour worth of information I got to cram in. This is the last meeting of the year, and I've got to say this before we get into January 8th when that next meeting's coming up. And so it's just going to be a roller coaster ride. Hang on, everybody. I'm going to vomit these words out, and we'll process it, after the fact. I hate those types of meetings, by the way. But what happens is, I now realize at 47, I've got to surround myself with the people that are smart enough to keep me in check, that are smart enough to say, "Hey, can we pray about this? Like right now, can we just stop what we're doing and pray?" I need to welcome that. I need to welcome different ideas. If I surround myself with people who look and sound and talk just like me, I mean, why? Why not surround myself with people that make me better, not who agree with me? That's some of the stuff with like, oh my gosh, some of the team we're assembling right now. We're having a conversation about member care, about counseling, about reporting and stats, and I think Stacy and Laura too. Laura's with Hope Made Strong. It's a new partner with the Church Digital. Stacy's grief care, welcoming grief, and both of them, said something in this meeting about member care, and said it at the same time. Or I think Laura said it first, and Stacy's like, "I was going to say that," and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Like it was not even on my radar. And they started to unpack it. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we have to do that." I'm so glad you said that, because I was not like, what else are you seeing that I'm not saying? Because your perspective is different than I am. Like I'm an idiot faking it. You are the actual experts in this space. So you tell me, like, what do we need to change in this plan? As you're building out your teams, it's funny that Jason Morris in me is going to say, "Okay, so, digital missionaries that are out there, you need a Paul, you need a Barnabas, you need a Timothy. You need somebody who's mentoring you. You need a peer who you can collaborate with, and then you need somebody that you're going to be coaching and discipling. Your Timothy. Paul is of course in the equation. Paul's the mentor. Barnabas is the peer-to-peer, and then Timothy is the person that you are discipling." JMO would say you need those people in your life. Others would say, and we're actually spending a lot of time coming up in a couple weeks up talking about APEST, about how you need like all 5 of those: apostolic, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher. You need all 5 of those in your team. You need to recognize you have all 5 of those in your church. You need to recognize that you are biased towards one yourself, which means that you're probably weak to 1 or 2 others. understand your limitations, keep your lane, and then that's going to help you understand how to better operate in the future. Because if you know your weakness, you're able to get connected with people that's their strength, that they can hold you in check. That was going back, this is going to go back a year or so. Chris Caputo, some of you guys would know him. That was the thing that he was really good at. Like Chris and I were so extreme. Like I was very apostolic, and Chris is very shepherd. And like he would talk, and I've told him this too. He would talk, and I'm like I don't even know. I don't even understand the words that you're explaining right now. It's a whole other language. Are you speaking English? Parlez-vous français? It was bad. But I learned his mindset, which helped me better understand the strength of what he was offering. And really, the deeper our relationship went, the longer it went, the more I respected him, the more that it flourished, and that he contributed to the organization. Because I didn't just view him as the guy who cares about the stuff that I don't care about. He wasn't a waste of space. He actually made the organization better. I've worked for churches that they would only hire apostolics. They would only hire A's, or they would hire T's teachers. Shepherds were not nowhere. Shepherds were nowhere to be found. And that got you a certain type of church. It got you one that, to be honest, that church really cared about, let's just say they cared more about product than people. And that in many ways, they kind of lost vision, maybe for the people. It was definitely something that you have to keep in check. And so do what you're doing. Keep that in check. Be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. Do the A-Pest. We're going to be rolling out True Center here in a little bit. But these are the types of assessments that we want to make available to help people like you understand how you're wired. And as you pray through recruiting and developing your teams, the type of people you want to be looking for to make things better. Oh, man. 45 minutes into the stream, and I said I was going to talk Christmas music. We hadn't even talked one Christmas movie. Yeah. It's a tough call. So funny. I read an article in Forbes magazine. I think it was Forbes. Talking about the most powerful line. This is what they said. The most powerful line in literature. One of the most powerful lines in written literature was Charles Dickens. Marley was dead to begin with. And the author of the article actually quoted his wife had done illustrations for a Charles Dickens publication of The Christmas Carol a decade earlier. So he is a writer. She is a published illustrator, and both have had experience around Charles Dickens' publication, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Or excuse me, The Christmas Carol. You now know where the story's going. Because in the Charles Dickens movie, the line opens up, the Marleys were dead to begin with, because it's the two Muppets from the balcony, whatever their names are. I should know their names. But it's true. Like, the Marleys were dead to begin with. And it's all about, I could sing the song, and doom, Scrooge, you're doomed for all time. Your name is a horror story written by your crimes, changed or forged by what you say and do. So have your fun. When life gets done, a nightmare waits for you. That's where the food sings that part of the song. Good times. But he's seen Muppet Christmas Carol so many times where they turned Marley into the Marley Brothers that he actually thought the line was, the Marleys were dead, comma, to begin with. This is just funny how perceptions change, right? He actually opened up the book. He wrote in the article, opened up the book for some reason, and it caught him off guard. Like it was, I think he had said he had read it, last time he had read a book all the way through was in like 7th grade, or high school, maybe in high school and freshman year of high school. And it's like you have this perception, right? And sometimes you gotta keep your perceptions in check. Or sometimes you gotta ask hard questions and ask the people around you what they think and listen to them. I don't know. I can think of plenty of times in my life I thought I was one way, and I was not the way that I was not perceived by others the way that I perceived myself. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was constantly fighting. Oh, this is funny, yeah. No, but when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was constantly fighting for different things, things that I believed in. But I didn't think I was fighting. The people around me were like, "Oh my gosh, Jeff, you were a terror. Like you delivered, but the delivery. I mean, I left trail of bodies. I did not value people over product. I don't think I really valued process either. I'm not really a big process guy. The kinder, gentler Jeff now cares about process because that's how I relate to others. Okay, what process do you want to play here, and how can I help with that? But I can think of, like, as I was leaving my church job in 2015 and as I was leaving my church job in 2018, both of those times I talked with 2 different senior level leaders who said, Jeff, you fought every day you worked for this church for what I believed in. But the perception wasn't for what I believed in. The perception was I was a jerk. Yeah. Lead with relationships. What a good theme for the holidays. I will use, I'm going to be careful how I say this. I'm just going to say it. I will use the excuse of Jesus' birth to re-engage with people I haven't talked with in months or years, to try to figure out what's going on in their life, to restore some relationships. Not that they were damaged, but they just got frayed with time. Relocation, jobs, family, business, people. I mean, I've got thousands of contacts in my address book on my phone. I've got thousands of Facebook friends. I've got thousands of social media contacts. There's plenty of people I'm connected with, but to say that I have a relationship with them other than whatever I'm seeing through the Facebook algorithm when I check Facebook now once a month or two. Sorry. To be honest, like I just get disconnected. And so Christmas, I'm going to take the time to actually have a conversation. Send a text message, make a phone call. Hey, you want to set up a time to grab coffee in the next couple weeks? Sometime in January, I'd love to sit down with you and catch up. Even a digital guy, it's okay to be physical. Physical plays a part even in digital strategy. You got to understand how to maximize it, though. Everything does not have to be physical. Not everything has to be digital. There's strengths and there's opportunities in both. Be smart enough to look at what the best play is instead of fighting for something that may not matter in the end, ish. So, by the way, if you're keeping score at home, Muppet Christmas Carol is the movie I've seen more this Christmas than any other movie, any other movie. I may have seen Muppet Christmas Carol more times than any movie, period. Maybe the only movie that would be close to that would be the first Michael Keaton Batman movie, with Elfman's Batman. Wow, that's an interesting question. Okay, so I was obsessed with Michael Keaton's Batman. I'm not a DC guy now, but when Michael Keaton's Batman came out in the, what was 87, 89, somewhere around there, I may have saw that movie. It was 87. I may have saw that movie 25 or 30 times in the movie theater. That's before, and I mean, DVDs didn't exist back then. It was VHS. I had the VHS, and I watched that thing like crazy. That and Hunt for Red October. Hunt for October had the VHS tape of that too, and I would put in either one of those two movies on VHS. In my room, I had a really tiny like box TV with a VHS player built in, and it had like a loop on it. I would start the movie at night when I'd go to bed, and it just would play all night long. VHS playing all the way through, rewind back over, play again, rewind, play again, rewind. I mean, I wore out VHS tapes of Hunt for October and Batman. That being said, Muppet Christmas Carol, you may win. You know, somewhere up in the sky, God's doing like a replay of, how many times I've seen what movie or listened to what. You know, Spotify and Apple Music are giving me my count every year. By the way, Coldplay is my number one artist for 3 or 4 years in a row. It's substantial, Coldplay. And following up on that, somebody's keeping track of how many times I've watched Muppet Christmas Carol. So I can't wait to see that stat. Jim Henson will tell me. Jim's dead, right? Jack's dead, my friend. You can call me the Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. That's from Batman, in case you're curious. All right. Man, it's been fun. I don't know. I have no intention of having any sort of serious conversation. I was actually debating on going serious today, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to. I'll go serious. I think I would do a New Year's Eve stream. It was funny. I said November 15th, the last podcast I published of 24 was November 15th. And I did the top 5 things to expect from the Church Digital in 2025. And I was going back over those top 5 things, and I'm pretty sure half of them are no longer valid. So when you talk about somebody who's aggressively loves change and is constantly wanting to evolve and to grow and really doesn't respect process, 6 weeks ago, I said these 5 things are going to be important in the upcoming year. And before we even got to that year, I'm changing my mind on a couple of things. There's some other things that we're going to higher prioritize than that. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But that's what it's like to work like for me. So, coming up in the next stream next week, you may revisit top 5 things the Church Digital will be digging into in 2025. There are at least 2 edits that I know of. We'll do that. We'll get a buzzer in here and make it fun. But we're going to talk about what 25 is going to be for real, and I'm really excited. Vision. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, I really do believe God. Well, and Henry Blackaby, I was going to say this earlier. Henry Blackaby, in Experiencing God, God speaks through Scripture. God speaks through prayer. God speaks through the Holy Spirit. That soft, quiet voice. God speaks through nature. We know that. Romans speaks of that. Romans says that we can look at the nature in the naked eye and see God and the beauty and the majesty of everything. That the gospel is shared by what we're seeing in nature. God speaks in through others. God speaks through others. And we have this incredible opportunity to stop and to listen. There were times where I didn't listen to anybody. And the older I get, the more that I realize that I don't know it all. And instead of trying to be the alpha, I know I'm strong enough to be the alpha. But instead of trying to be the alpha, let me learn from some of the others that can make the ideas, make the organization, make the ministry, make us all better. Like, just because we're different than them doesn't mean that we can't learn something from them. Just because we don't agree on something philosophically doesn't mean that God can't use them to teach something in us. There's plenty of scripture where God speaks through, God speaks through a mule in the Old Testament. God speaks through a burning bush. God speaks through so many different people and prophets that didn't align with the norm. I'm really looking forward to 25 because we've got the opportunity to listen and keep going down the road that God has laid out, honestly, through the voices of others who are asking for help. Because we're going to come alongside. And when there's one person asking for help, there's dozens others who are asking the same questions. So it's going to be great. And with that, I think I'm going to land the plane. We're going to go under an hour. We're going to go sub 1 hour here on this stream. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. If you are working the church gig, stop, breathe, rest, take a minute somewhere, and enjoy the awe of who God is. And if you don't see him, find God in this season. I cannot tell you how many times I produced church. I actually own the domain name, theChurch.digital. It's not a healthy domain name. I cannot tell you how many times I produced church, yet lost God or didn't see God in the midst of that. Maybe one day we'll tell some of those stories. Find God in the midst of your hectic life that you're working through today, and represent that to the volunteers, to the people, to the staff that you're working with. Show that to your Pauls, show that to your Barnabases, show that to your Timothys, and let others catch vision of not missing God in the hecticness, but finding him despite the hecticness. And know this, if there's anything that I can do for you, just reach out, hit me up on WhatsApp or Discord, or you can text me here in the U.S., 484-324-8724. It's +1 484-324-8724. All right. Hey, so I'm going to land the plane. Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a great time with family as we're remembering the coming of our Christ, Emmanuel. And we'll talk on the flip side. See you next week. Have a good one. Bye.